All right, so this is one of those scenes from the Gospels that probably sticks in your mind, right? Jesus making a whip and just driving everyone out of the temple. It sounds like pure chaos, but it wasn't just some random outburst of anger. Not at all. Today, we're going to dig into what was really going on. This whole event was a massive declaration about who he was and what the future of worship was all about.
So if you boil this whole thing down to one main point, it's this. Jesus Christ has total, supreme authority over God's house. That's the core argument here. Every single thing he does, every word he says, it all points back to this one powerful claim.
Okay, to really get why Jesus did what he did, we have to put ourselves there with him. Let's just try to see the temple through his eyes for a minute. He's arriving for the Passover feast, this huge, important celebration, and what he walks into is, well, it's definitely not the peaceful, reverent place you'd imagine.
And this verse just lays it all out, doesn't it? The place of worship had basically become a loud, chaotic marketplace. Now look, pilgrims needed animals for sacrifices, and they had to change their money to the special temple currency. That part was necessary. But what was happening here had just ballooned. It turned into a massive, for-profit business set up smack in the middle of where people were supposed to be praying. And where this was all happening is so important. This wasn't just in some random corner. It was right in the court of the Gentiles. You know, the one and only place in the whole temple complex that was set aside for non-Jews, for people from all nations to come and worship God. So this wasn't just a simple logistical issue. It was a massive spiritual roadblock.
And don't think this was just a few guys trying to make a quick buck. Oh no. This was an officially approved market. The people in charge, probably the high priest's own family, were getting rich off of it. Can you just imagine the noise, the commotion, the smell? It would have made real, sincere worship pretty much impossible. They had literally built a wall of commerce that was keeping people away from God.
All right, so that's the scene. Now let's look at how Jesus responds. And again, this is so much more than just a guy losing his temper. It's a calculated, symbolic act. It's an act of divine judgment and a massive declaration of who he is, the Son. So, the first thing he does is make a whip out of cords. And that little detail, it's packed with meaning. This isn't just a random weapon he picked up. No, it's a symbol of righteous judgment. He's acting with the full authority to demand obedience and to cleanse what belongs to his Father. And then he speaks, and his words carry all the weight. He says, "Take these things hence, make not my Father's house an house of merchandise." Think about that phrasing. He doesn't say God's house or even our Father's house, which is what you might expect. He says, my Father's house. That's a deeply personal, totally unprecedented claim. He's basically declaring a unique, one-of-a-kind relationship with God as his Son. And with that one act, he's also directly fulfilling Scripture. You see, the prophecies said the Messiah would have this burning passion, this zeal for God's house. So his anger, it's not just him being mad. It was a righteous, messianic anger over what was being done to his Father's house. Okay, so the scene has been cleared, but the confrontation is far from over. It just shifts gears. Now that he's shown his physical authority, the religious leaders step in to challenge him, and the conflict goes from the physical action to this really mysterious prophecy that, honestly, nobody there could have possibly understood at the time. So they come up to him and basically say, "Who do you think you are? Show us a sign. Prove you have the authority to do this." And his answer is just stunning. It's this incredible cryptic challenge. He says, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." I mean, you can just imagine them looking at each other completely baffled. Their reaction is just pure disbelief. Are you kidding me? To them, it's just an absurd statement. The literal, physical temple they were all standing in, it had been under construction for 46 years already. The idea of rebuilding that in 3 days, it was just impossible. And right here, this is the absolute heart of the misunderstanding. They're looking at stone, at mortar, at this massive physical building. That's their temple. But Jesus, he was talking about something else entirely. A deep, spiritual reality that was all about him. They were having two completely different conversations. All right, let's bring this all together, because that strange, cryptic statement he made, it ends up being the ultimate proof of who he is. This is where the whole story really clicks into place, and we see what it was all about. And here it is, the big reveal.
John, the writer of this gospel, just tells us plainly, Jesus wasn't talking about the building, not at all. He was speaking about the temple of his body.
Wow. I mean, that changes everything, doesn't it? The destruction of the temple he talked about, that was his own crucifixion. And the rebuilding it in 3 days, that was his resurrection. Through his death and resurrection, he himself would become the new temple, the new place where God and humanity could meet. The way to God was no longer about a place, it was about a person. And his own disciples didn't even get it at the time. It was only after he rose from the dead that the light bulb finally went on. They remembered what he'd said, and suddenly, in light of the empty tomb, those confusing words made perfect sense. This became the ultimate proof of everything he claimed, and it became the rock-solid foundation of their faith.
So that leaves us with this final massive thought to chew on. What does it mean for the center of our worship to be a person, not a place? You see, the cleansing of the temple wasn't just about cleaning house. It was a loud, dramatic announcement that the old way was over. The age of a stone temple was ending, and a brand new era of worship, one centered completely and totally on him, had just begun.